Welcome to the Falls Township Board of Supervisors meeting, February 21st, 2012. We'll begin our meeting, as usual, with the salute to the flag, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Mrs. Pullen, can you take the roll, please?
Mr. Galloway?
Here.
Mr. Snakes?
Whoa. Well, microphone emergency. Here.
Mr. Harvey?
Here.
Mr. Dent?
Here.
Mr. Rocco?
Here.
Okay. All right. Thank everybody for coming out to the meeting tonight. A lot of interesting things on our agenda. I actually want to begin with something that's not on the agenda. As many people know, Falls Township invested quite a bit of money and time over the past few years to build a challenger field at Levittown Continental baseball fields for children who are special needs. It is one of the areas where children really from all over Lower Bucks County, not just in Falls, can come and play baseball on a field that is a year-round surface for them, so it's safe for them. It's something they can use in all kinds of, it doesn't matter if the weather's been bad, if they have a sunny day of any kind, they can still use the field, and it's really something that we're very, very proud of. And a lot of work went into that for many people throughout the township. One of the people who really was a driving force in that is a gentleman named Steve DeSangro, who's been with Levittown Continental for a long time. And he's here tonight to make a presentation. I'll ask him to come to the podium.
Thank you. I'll only take a couple minutes. I just wanted to do this tonight because I know the board came down for the dedication of the field, but there's somebody that's really been instrumental in what we did, and I really didn't get a chance to thank him, and I wanted to get a plaque made for him because he really did a lot on his own time, didn't charge us anything, and we're really proud of what he did. And that is Jim Sullivan. Jim, could you come up, please? Jim was fantastic. He designed the field. He helped me out with everything, got everything done, all the job meetings, and I really wanted to thank him tonight. Thanks, Jim. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, Mr. Sullivan is definitely a class act, and he's definitely an asset to this board and this township, and he has been for quite a while. So, thanks, well deserved. Thanks. So, thank you very much. All right. Okay, move on with item number 1 of our agenda, which is consider S&S Wildlife Agreement for the Falls Township Community Park. Mr. Gray.
Yes, the township received 2 quotes from S&S Wildlife for egg gattling and a roundup at the Falls Township Community Park. The egg gattling and the permit is $5,225, and the roundup is $4,775. Last year, the township paid $5,225 for the egg gattling program. The board is asked to consider these items. Here tonight is Mr. Rick Shadle from S&S Wildlife, Bill Reese, and John Gillis from the Public Works Department.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gray. I can have those 3 gentlemen, Mr. Gillis, Mr. Reese, Mr. Shadle, come up, just describe a little bit. This is a project we've done over the past few years, so I think people are somewhat familiar with it, but if we can just have a kind of a summary. My feeling, my thoughts just going past the park periodically is that with the weather we've had, the geese haven't exactly flown the coop as they should have and gone far away. So the problem's worse this year, I think, isn't it?
Yes, I would say, yeah, it's getting pretty bad again. Over the last few years, we've, with the help of the U.S. Wildlife Canada Goose Management, we've had the egg gattling program. And then the 1 year we did have a roundup, and I believe that was 2 or 3, maybe 4 years ago by now. And Rick Shadle is here tonight to answer any questions you might have. And I think with John Gillis and myself, my park security staff, the situation with the geese is getting worse. And, we are getting complaints from the the soccer people, which I don't blame them, for the kids having to play on fields that have a lot of, geese droppings on the field. So, whatever we can do to help deter this would be awesome. But if you guys have any direct questions, like with the quotes or anything along that line, if you could refer them to Mr. Rick Shadle, that would be awesome. And John, if you want to say.
Just the conditions are worst I've seen. I have not seen them this bad. I don't know, 10 years. At this point, I can only take care of keeping the droppings off the play areas and the walk paths. The fields are so bad, you can't step anywhere without getting another 2 or 3 inches on the bottom of your soles of your shoes. It's bad.
Okay. All right. All right, Mr. Shado, if you don't mind, just kind of running through exactly what's the addling program involves, what the roundup involves.
Sure. The addling program deals with geese that are hatched out on site. It doesn't have anything to do with adult birds, other than they're the ones that are depositing the eggs. So our role is to find those nests and make sure that we don't have eggs that hatch on the property, which compounds the problem because you have young geese that grow at an exponential rate and they leave behind an exponential amount of manure, as it were. So that's been our role. It's not been dealing with an adult population that kind of flies in and flies out or whatever it happens to do. The other component that we did, I think it was 3 years ago, maybe 4, was a roundup of every bird that had molded on property. That's what a roundup is. By mid-June, any adult bird that's on the property loses its flight feathers. So as you start moving into June, you'll start seeing big feathers laying around, big quill feathers. Those are the flight feathers, and those birds are stuck at the site, can't fly off. They can walk off, but they're not going to walk off unless they were forced to do that. So what we did 3-4 years ago was come in and remove those birds that were so imprinted to the site that you couldn't chase them off if you beat them with a broom. They weren't going to leave. And so that gave us a reprieve, and the folks that were chasing the adult birds and trying to keep them from imprinting again on the site. But after a while, that thing just sort of kind of catches up again, and it's sort of like mowing grass. At some point, you got to mow the grass or it gets too high, and the same with Canada geese, especially in the situation you folks are at. You're so close to so much water. You're right on the Atlantic Flyway. There's going to be geese that just tend to congregate here again. The lake at the park is surrounded by other large bodies of water. There's nothing we can do about those, but certainly there's always a supply of geese that will eventually start to fill the void or the hole that's made there, whether it be from removal of eggs that keeps you from having a bunch of goslings, or a roundup where you're removing adult birds and kind of starting from square one. So that's the process.
Okay. All right, let board members ask comments or questions to either Mr. Shadell, Mr. Reese, or Mr. Gillis. Mr. Galloway?
Not at this time.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes, when was the last time we did a roundup?
I believe, sir, it was 4 years ago. I should know that. It was 3 or 4 years ago. I think it was 2008.
And when the molting birds are rounded up, are they taken somewhere and slaughtered, or they're released, or
They are
what happens?
slaughtered, sir. That is the requirement. They're tested if, because of where these birds are at on the planet, the meat is tested prior to them being donated to a kitchen.
Oh.
If the meat doesn't test proper, it's landfilled. If the meat does test proper, it's donated.
And this all has to be permitted, is it by the DEP, or who?
U.S. Fish and Wildlife.
U.S. Fish and Wildlife, okay. So obviously they're monitoring the populations of Canada geese in the country, and they know
Oh, absolutely.
what a stable population number is.
Correct. Yeah.
That's the only question I have, besides a question of the price of the contract. Should I ask that now, or to someone else?
Well, I think the one quote we have is from just the addling, and then I think there was an additional quote for the roundup, and I think the total is $10,000 for everything.
Plus the
But permit
permit
fees.
that has to be
Right,
filed.
there are 2 permit fees, one
So
for the
we're
addling
gonna-
and one for the roundup, is that correct? 2 permit fees?
Yes, that's correct.
And we're going to vote on these separately, the addling and or can we do it all at
We
once?
can do it all at once, basically. We're
can do it
hiring
all-
a professional
do it all at
service,
once.
so.
Okay. That's all,
Okay.
thank you.
Mr. Dents?
Not yet. You can come back to me.
Mr. Rocco?
You've outlined two options. Is there any other options besides the addling and the roundup?
Well, there are other things that can be done, and some of that's being done by staff, which is keeping the birds that we're not dealing with from an addling standpoint. Pretty much those are non-existent birds, okay? They're
Right.
birds that are in eggs, and the roundup is to manage the population through hazing, and there's lots of ways to go about that. Some would be less acceptable on site than others. Some you use noise, and others you don't use noise, and there's different things that can be done. I can't speak exactly as to what all the staff is doing. We have consulted some in the past on that, but there's a lot of things that can go into a 12-month management plan for geese, yes. So, and that's something else our company does provide. We've not provided it to date for Falls Township. We've just done the addling and the one-time roundup.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
I have one from Mr. Gillis. Do you think the addling works? I'm not down at the park very often this time of year, but I don't see very many young geese when I am down there.
They'll be in a few more months, you'll notice them.
The baby geese. So that would make you think
They
the
haven't
addling,
as far as I can tell, they haven't started to pair off yet. I kind of watch it every day. As far as I know, they're still in big flocks. Usually when they start pairing off is when you start watching for nests.
but you do start seeing young ones, which would mean the addling's not working?
Well, may I offer
been
a
a few
comment
years.
on that? It is working, because if I take 56 eggs away, that's 56 birds you don't have. One of the dynamics of where your park is at is that you get walk-in birds. I can't do anything about what happens off your property, but you will get birds that will walk in. Mom and Dad will march them in from across the street. Those are birds that we deal with on a roundup. So yes, addling does work, and I'm here to say that we go over this property with a fine-tooth comb. We've been at it for 6, 7, 8 years now. We know all the hidden places. We know all the special places. We're along the stream, the two bodies of water, the canal, all those areas, the peninsula on the power line. We're confident that we remove every nested bird, the eggs from every nested bird on site. We just can't do anything about what walks in from off-site.
So what, even if we do the roundup, then nothing's going to stop more birds from just coming and taking their place?
It is mowing grass. I mean, that's the bottom line. If you don't do it, you're going to have folks fussing because you got a mess. If you only do it to a certain degree, you still have some mess. I mean, there's a lot more things that could be done to combat the problem. It is a budget issue, for sure, but we do other things at other sites to manage the adult birds on that site. You would probably be looking, if we were to contract with you, even to do an additional 5 or 6 months out of the year. The first year, you'd probably spend an additional 20 grand to try and get where it's at to a place where we were satisfied we're going to be able to manage that bird population. And that's not even with the efforts that are being made. But if you were not to take away these eggs that we've taken, you would have a bigger problem than you have now.
That's all I had.
Questions or comments? Is the, you know, again, assumption, is the weather an issue in terms of how these geese are just not flying the way they used to? Or, you know, there's no need to fly south when it's going to be 65 degrees tomorrow?
Well, certainly that's a dynamic that doesn't help, but the truth be known, the geese that are imprinted to this site, they're referred to as resident Canada geese. They're born and raised local. They have no interest in flying north. They have no interest in flying south. And of course, the worst part of this year has been we've had very little ice, very little snow, and so food has always been available. So December, January, if we had snow cover here, you wouldn't have any geese here because there's nothing to eat. They would go as far south, whether that's Delmarva Peninsula or wherever, to find food, only to return. This year, there's no reason to go anywhere, so it has compounded the problem.
Okay. And roundups, if I remember right from a few years ago, roundups can't be done every year, can there? Don't you have to leave?
They can be done every year as long as the permit is approved.
Okay.
So that's the caveat.
Okay.
And we don't know because we haven't tried it in a subsequent year.
Right. Okay.
Do we have any idea how many geese are down there? Resident geese?
I can't speak to that because I'm I'm not here this
A
time
couple
of year.
hundred at least.
Couple hundred?
So where did the 65 geese come from on the roundup? Up to 65 geese?
Well, I think you just used that as a term. I mean, you just,
That's
For
a
budget?
kind of our, that's a term, I mean, it's so much till we get to 65 geese, it's this much money, and then if we've got anything over that, then it's per goose. That's based on what we felt would be here. The 200 geese right now, that can change a lot till it comes summertime. There's 200 geese here now. I don't expect that in the summertime. I would expect anywhere from 50 to 100 geese possibly to be here. That's going to change some when geese start pairing off the nest.
and sorry, go ahead.
Because those 200 geese are not going to nest here. Some of them are too young, they're not reproductively active. Some are too old and they don't care about that anymore, and the others are in the middle, so.
I had a question. I'm trying to think what it is now. The reasoning for, I guess, waiting till June and we can't round up ahead of time, is that a fish and wildlife restriction, or is it just the practicality of trying to catch a bird that can fly?
It's exactly right. I mean, there are some new tools out there, and I don't know yet on any large scale they've been used. There are air-powered net guns, large net guns, where you feed birds into an area, and then you launch a net that's as large as this room for flighted birds. But it puts a lot of stress on the birds. Yes, the birds are being put down, but we're not looking to make a circus out of this either.
We're going to round them up and kill them. How much more stressful can
Well,
it be?
I understand, but when you round a bird up that can't fly and put him into a thing, he doesn't necessarily know that he's going to, be put down. So it's a little different.
Okay.
Seems like no matter what we do, they're going to keep coming back.
Yeah.
You are correct, sir.
Okay, any other board comment? Questions? Is there public comment needed? See one hands or motion to open public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
We seem to go through this every year, and every year I come up with something other than this addling. I agree with you, Mr. Detz, because if it was up to me, Bob Cratchit wouldn't have to worry or wait for Scrooge to have a dead goose on his plate. There are other things that you can do. One of them is called Flight Control Plus. Now, that's safe for humans, safe for livestock, safe for wildlife. It's a product that absorbs ultraviolet light, and the geese can see it in treated areas. Now, the geese will not eat anything that's been treated with this Flight Control Plus. They will leave the area, and it usually takes about 20 minutes to take effect on the geese. There's another item that's menthol, what's a tough one? Anthrolite, yeah, thank you. And that's made from grape extract, and geese don't like grape extracts. It irritates their nervous system, their mucous membranes. A treated area, they won't go to. They'll stay away from it. So I think we go through this every year. We're going to go put coconut oil on eggs and shake them. I'd like to see us go to this kind of safe chemical treatments so they don't come back, and they will leave. So I wish you'd give this a little bit more consideration. We bring it up every year. And then
You know how much it costs by chance?
No, I don't, but I think this gentleman probably does. It's probably more expensive than what you're doing. But what you're doing year after year after year after year, and they're multiplying. So,
Right.
let's get rid of them.
Okay. Mr. Shada, you want to comment on that?
Would love to. The products are good products. They're very, very expensive to use. Sometimes they're not even available. Flight Control was delisted for a time and is available again. It's about $300 a gallon. You're going to spend treating eggs or treating grass, you probably spend $15,000 to $20,000 for the amount of grass you have. And the reason is that flight control sprayed on the grass after 2 mowings is gone, and you have to reapply. It's not a truism that you spray it and they leave. Any repellent has limitations, and I'm here to tell you that flight control and grapeseed extract, though good products for spot applications for parking islands, golf course greens, and things of that nature, have efficacy. But I have indeed watched geese eat through it when there's no other options, just like deer or whatever will eat through repellents when that's what they want to eat. So again, not to knock the products, we've discussed this before, I would not recommend them. You're going to spray, and you're going to spray, and you're going to spray. And the next goose that flies over that doesn't see flight control or knows what flight control is going to be down there. Again, good products for spot applications. They do not fit what you have here, and I think if you were to talk to a representative from either of those companies, they would tell you the same thing.
Okay.
It seems like we just keep addling and addling and addling, and there's still just as many geese as there ever were.
Well, not to oversimplify it, we have made headway on geese. I mean, this year is worse because of what's going on with the weather, you know, the local weather we have here. But again, I come back to the very same thing. If you don't mow the grass, it grows. You got to mow grass. I don't see anybody advocating a grass stunting product so that you don't have to mow the grass. You got to mow it. Geese are no different. You got to manage them. Just like deer, you got to manage them. There is no other way to go about it.
Any other public comment? See no hands. Is there a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, what's the pleasure of the board? We have 2 proposals, one just for Adling, one just for the Roundup, and obviously the combined. You know, we can do any of those 3 options, I guess.
Personally, I don't like the idea of the roundup. I think we're just going to round them up, and more geese are going to just come as soon as we get rid of those geese. Addling, if Mr. Gillis thinks it works, I would support that. That's my opinion.
Okay, other thoughts?
It just seems like we would wish for a more permanent solution, but from what's been discussed tonight, it's just not available to us. And I think that it's a good recommendation to do both programs.
Okay. I think, I mean, in my personal opinion, given how bad it is, you know, and it really is, you can't even see the field sometimes when you drive past. You know, on 13, you look over and all you see is white and brown, and that's it.
Plus, it's a nightmare. The Easter egg hunt is not that far away.
Right, that's a good point.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
I can't stand the thought of it.
Yeah.
Goose egg hunt.
Goose egg.
Mr. Chairman.
If it weren't as bad, I might not think the Roundup was such a good idea, but I think this year, just given how bad it is, I think it almost is a necessity.
I want to ask Jeff. Jeff, why do you think that the Roundup's not a good idea?
Well, apparently the addling is working because there's no geese that live there that are no baby geese. Baby geese that are coming from somewhere else. But he said himself that we live right on the eastern flyway, and if we're going to take them away, more geese are just going to keep coming, no matter what we do.
Question I have then is, are the geese that are molting on the property, are they geese that are imprinted there and maybe were hatched there, or could they be anybody that just dropped by?
They're going to be geese that call that area home.
They call that area home.
And after we did the Roundup the first time, of course, for 2 months, through June and almost through August, there were hardly any birds on site because everybody's molded, whether it's here or in New Jersey or wherever it happens to be. So you're not having a migration of birds. So you do get some time there where there's hardly anybody around and the grass is clean. You're going to start to accumulate birds, and that's going to start to build again. But it's not like you take 100 away and the next day or the next week 100 show back up. there's a gradual rebuilding of that. And that's why the addling is so important, that you're not adding that way. But you are going to build geese there, and it would take a very aggressive maintenance program of hazing to not have that happen, like I had stated earlier. I mean, what the folks are doing is helping for sure. It would be worse. But if you know, it just have to be very aggressive because of the size of the body of water and the amount of turf that you're dealing with.
Yeah, I think I'd be in favor of probably doing both this time and see how it goes.
Is there a motion to that effect?
Make a motion that we approve contracted services to S&S Wildlife Control Services for the egg addle program, the goose roundup program, including the filing for the permit with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for the total cost of
10,000.
10,000 even? 10,000 even.
Second.
Okay, motion's made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen, very much. Appreciate your time. Okay, item number 2 on our agenda is to consider an application for an intermunicipal transfer of a liquor license for El Guerrero Incorporated. This will be a hearing, so we have a stenographer who is here to record testimony. I'll have a motion to open the hearing first, and then we'll allow Mr. Clark to go ahead and begin the hearing. Is there a motion to open the hearing for the intermunicipal transfer of a liquor license?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Clark?
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. This is a public hearing for liquor license application. The applicant is El Guerrero, Inc. The property which is the subject of this hearing is for the application for an intermunicipal transfer of a liquor license to applicant's business, Cancun Restaurant, 110 Lincoln Highway in Fairless Hills, Falls Township. The hearing is being held for the purposes of receiving comments and recommendations of interested individuals residing within the municipality concerning the applicant's intent to transfer a liquor license into the municipality of Falls Township. The application, which was submitted by J. Kenneth Butera, Esquire, of the firm of Butera, Busang, Cohen, and Brennan, was received by the township on June 17, 2011. Additional information to complete the...
I think it was June. I think it was January.
Okay.
Just to be clear on the record.
My notes indicate June.
License in there by now.
Okay. Additional information to complete the application was received on January 26, 2012. The Pennsylvania Liquor Code requires that the township render a decision within 45 days of the submission of a completed application, or in the alternative, within an additional 60 days at the township's election, with written notice to the applicant. We have reviewed and found the application to be substantially complete. The Pennsylvania Liquor Code sets forth certain mandatory provisions with respect to processing applications for intermunicipal transfer of liquor license. Section 4-461B3 of the Liquor Code provides that an intermunicipal transfer of a license must first be approved by the governing body of the receiving municipality when the total number of existing restaurant liquor licenses and eating place retail dispenser licenses in the receiving municipality equals or exceeds one license per 3,000 inhabitants. Section 4-461B3 further states that upon request for an intermunicipal transfer, at least one public hearing shall be held by the municipal governing body for the purpose of receiving comments and recommendations of interested individuals residing within the municipality concerning the applicant's intent to transfer a license into the municipality. My office has contacted the quoted department of the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board, and they have confirmed that Falls Township has in excess of one license per 3,000 residents. Accordingly, the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board may not approve a new license unless the township first holds a public hearing and approves the intermunicipal transfer application. The township is required to render its decision by resolution or ordinance, and we have provided for the board this evening a copy of a resolution approving the transfer and a copy of a resolution denying the transfer. The application has been advertised consistent with the Liquor Code on February 6, 2012, and February 13th, 2012 in the Courier Times. The applicant is represented here this evening by Kenneth Butera. Mr. Butera, you will have the opportunity to present the application, any information, any evidence you would like, and any testimony you would like, and then make yourself available if you have any witnesses here with you this evening, available for questions and from any members of the public that request party status during this hearing. Do you understand the process, Mr. Butera?
Yes, I do, Mr. Clark, thank you.
Okay, and do you have any previously marked exhibits that you were planning on submitting this evening?
I have just one. It would be a menu from the restaurant. I can give that out now, if that's okay.
And that's the only application that you have? Or the only exhibit that you have, excuse me?
Thank you. We can share.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I heard it's good now.
And Mr. Butera, you will provide information that this hearing, that notice of this hearing was served on the property owners listed as Exhibit E in the liquor license transfer application?
I can certify that orally now, that we did mail a list that Mr. Sullivan gave us a list of all the property owners within 1/4 mile of the property boundary in which the restaurant sits, and we mailed notice to every single one. We did get some back, but there were some redundancies as well. But I think there were almost 200 mailed, and I think we got back like 15 or 16 of those. So.
And that was, the list of those properties was attached to your application,
That's correct. That's correct.
So with that, the procedure as spelled out, Mr. Butera, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. I am Ken Butera. I represent El Guerrero, Inc., which you may know if you've been there. It's a restaurant called Cancun at the Oxford Point Shopping Center. It's a locally owned, family-run restaurant. The primary owners are Romero and Sita Palacios, who are here with me tonight, as well as Hector, it's Munoz, correct? Munoz, who's the manager of the restaurant, and he'll be, with the application to the Liquor Control Board, he will be identified as the manager. They've been operating Cancun for a little over a year. And seek now to, they've had a lot of patrons request alcohol with their meals, and so now are seeking to provide that service to their patrons. They've identified a liquor license, restaurant liquor license 19178, and they're seeking to transfer it from Ben Salem Township, so they can have. So like I said, so they can serve alcohol with food. The Palacios operate their restaurant in a very professional manner. It's a clean restaurant. They have another restaurant in Warrington that they've been running for a while and are involved with other restaurants in Pennsylvania as well. This restaurant here, their intention, and they'll testify to this, is that they will not have a bar. It'll just be a service area bar, so that there's a table service, alcohol only. There won't actually be a sit-down bar. And so with that, I have the witnesses that I identified as Mr. and Mrs. Palacios and Mr. Munoz. I'm sorry. And I have some questions for them. I'll be brief, if that's okay. I'm going to call Sita Palacios. Is that all right? Come on. Will you state your name for the record?
Yes. Sita Rosaura Palacios.
Can you spell that for the...
Cita Rosaura. Palacios is Palacios.
Okay. Do you currently work?
Yes.
She needs to be sworn in, Ms. Butera. I apologize.
Okay. We want to swear everybody in?
Anyone you plan on having testify should be
They
sworn.
may all testify, so I say to be safe.
Sure.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth?
You're right. All right. Do you currently work?
Yes.
And where do you work?
In Cancun, Mexican restaurant.
Okay. And where is Cancun located?
Not too far. It's 110 Lincoln Highway.
Okay. And that's in the Oxford Point Shopping Center?
Yes.
Okay. And now, are you an owner of Cancun Restaurant?
Yes.
Mr. Butera, your client's going to need to get a little closer to the microphone, and she's going to need to speak a little louder because this is being recorded.
Okay.
I'll try and speak up. I don't have a pretty booming voice.
Okay.
How long have you operated Cancun Restaurant?
Around 1 year, 2 months. Yeah, 1 year, 2 months.
What type of restaurant is Cancun?
Mexican restaurant.
And the menu, we passed the menu out earlier. Is that a menu from your restaurant?
Yes.
Now, have you operated other restaurants, and have you operated any other restaurants?
Yes, and Warmister, the Rey Azteca, is in the menu too. Yeah.
So that's like an associated restaurant to this one?
Yeah, my husband is on
Okay.
to the Rey Azteca.
Have you ever operated any restaurant with a liquor license?
No. No.
And what do you want to do at this restaurant, at Cancun?
Just yeah, we have a nice place, and we like to offer to have margaritas, something, with alcohol, something like that.
So why do you want the liquor license?
The people ask every time for margaritas, so that's why.
Do you plan on having a sit-down bar in your restaurant?
No,
Okay. About how big is your restaurant? How many seats does it seat?
around 152. Yeah.
Will Cancun be a club?
No,
And just so we're clear, will there be any live music or entertainment?
no.
Cancun is in a shopping center, correct?
Yes.
What are some of the other businesses in the shopping center?
Have IHOP, 888, in Japanese.
Closer to the microphone.
McDonald's in Vegas, something like that. I don't know.
What are your hours of operation in Cancun?
Monday to Saturday, 11 to 10, and Sunday, 12 to 9.
Now, if you get the liquor license, will those hours change?
No,
Will you be open late?
no.
And about how many employees do you have?
9.
And who will manage the store?
Hector Munoz.
Okay, and does he currently manage the store?
Yeah.
The restaurant?
Yes.
And will he have any special training?
Yes.
And then, should the township approve the license transfer and the LCB grant you the transfer as well, do you believe that your restaurant would adversely affect the welfare, health, peace, or morals of the community?
No.
Will it promote economic activity?
Yes.
Okay, let me, if I may, I'd like to call Mr. Palacios.
You can just state first.
Will you state your name, state your first name, please?
RAMIRO PALACIOS.
Now, Mr. Palacios, do you currently have any interest in liquor licenses anywhere in Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Okay, where are they?
Johnstown and Somerset.
Do you know how long you've had them?
I don't know, remember.
Okay. And of those, have you ever had a citation or anything like that from the LCB?
No.
Okay. Do you believe that if you get a license transferred to Falls Township, that it will adversely affect the welfare, health, peace, morals of the community?
No.
Well, do you believe it'll promote economic activity?
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I have. Any questions?
All right. Questions for Mr. Butera or for the Palacios or Mr. Munoz, who's the manager? Okay. Mr. Galloway, questions? Comments?
Just that it sounds like a similar use that a neighbor of yours there, A1 Steakhouse, has. right now, they don't have a bar, but they have the liquor license, and they do it very well. It's just a restaurant that serves liquor. So I wish you well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Snipes?
No, my wife and I have been to the restaurant. We had a great meal. We came the night that the electric went out a few months ago. We were there that night, so it was kind of an exciting night, but fue excelente. Muchas gracias.
Mr. Dents?
No comments or questions.
Mr. Rocco?
No comments or questions either.
Okay. Just what kind of alcohol what do you envision selling? What kind of alcohol?
Oh, it's going to be like,
You have to use microphone, sir. I'm sorry, Mr. Munoz. Closer.
pretty much, everybody knows about tequila and, wine and Mexican beer and domestic beer, of course, too. So that's all.
Okay. All right. And I had a couple other questions, but they were addressed in the testimony. Mr. Clark, comments or questions?
No questions.
Okay. All right.
I thought you were looking at the menu. You might want to order something.
And I didn't eat dinner this evening, so it all looked very good. You need to, no, here you need to inquire as to anyone requesting party status.
All right. Is there anyone who wishes to comment on the application? I see no hands. Okay. All right, then.
You can close the hearing and take a vote if there are no...
Okay. Is there a motion then to close the hearing for the intermunicipal transfer of a liquor license?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Any final comments or questions? Or if there are none, is there a motion either to approve or to deny the application for an intermunicipal transfer of a liquor license for El Guerrero Incorporated?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the application for intermunicipal transfer of liquor license for El Guerrero Incorporated.
Mr. Chairman, this would require resolution number 1207.
1207 would be the resolution number for
And
the record. So,
resolution to approve, resolution 1207.
right. Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion made and seconded. We're not spending money, so we can do just a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Buena suerte.
Okay, item 3 on our agenda is consider purchase of data 911 laptop computers and hardware and software upgrades for police vehicles. Mr. Gray.
The police department is requesting to purchase 3 mobile laptop computers. Cost of the laptops is $17,029.29. Also, the police department is requesting to purchase 6 hardware and software upgrades for existing units in the patrol vehicles. Cost of these upgrades is $22,933.68. Both of these purchases are from Data 911. These amounts have been budgeted in the 2012 budget, and these laptops and upgrades are on the CoStar's list. The board is asked to consider the purchase of the laptops and the hardware software upgrades from Data 911. Also, Sergeant Sven Boschman from the Falls Township Police Department is here to answer any questions you may have.
Good evening.
Okay.
Once again.
Sergeant, nice seeing you again.
Last minute stand-in, I promise.
So now this is 2 separate things we're purchasing?
It's actually one and the same. Like I said, a last minute. This is apparently, Sergeant Harvey Taylor has been before you the last 2 years. This is part of a 3-year plan, the final phase of phasing out the old laptops. Well, there are Data 911 terminals that give us our computer-aided dispatch, our lifeline basically to the county. And we're phasing out the ones that are 6 years old, believe it or not. We've even, these units in particular are phenomenal. From what I understand, there's total 9 total. 3 of them are actually complete with the monitors, but we already have monitors that were upgraded last year on some of the vehicles that are 06 models. So all we're looking to do is purchase the CPUs for those 6 vehicles. And the 3 complete with the monitors will be going into the 3 units that we've had that are specialized units that have not had any MDTs in them or mobile data terminals. The 06s are still working that we're phasing out. We use them kind of as a backup. They run phenomenally, but the problem is the speed and the ability to run the programs that we have right now, they're kind of not up to par. and that's the reason we're looking to finalize this. If it does go through, we won't have to look at this agenda item again for another 3 to 4 years. They're lasting that long, and they're that good of a product.
Okay. Okay. All right, so, and, so we're looking at 17,029.29 or 22,933.68 or both?
Both.
Both,
Okay,
yeah.
both. Right?
Once or twice are we looking at that 17,029?
It's a little just looking at the memo is a little bit confusing.
Yeah, the laptops are $17,000.
It looks like a total of probably $39,000. The way this is the first time I'm looking at it. The two invoices together, the $17,029.29 is for the 3 complete units
Right.
with the monitor, keyboard, the actual CPU unit, antennas.
Right.
And from what I'm looking at, the CPU upgrade, the 6, is for the actual, I guess, devices themselves without the monitors. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Okay.
Yeah, we have 2 different invoices in the back.
Correct. That's what I do
So-
believe, including looking at the memo tonight. It looks like the total would be somewhere around $39,000, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm looking at $39,962.97.
Very good.
I'm waiting for Mr.
39,962.
Mr. Gray to confirm that. I'm surprised he has to use his pencil. Usually he just does that. He's
He's still back at the menu.
he's confused by the menu. He's still thinking about the menu.
39,000.
He's ordering out.
Yeah. All right. That's not bad for a social studies teacher. That's not bad. All right. Okay. All right. So, all right. Comments or questions for Sergeant Boschman from the board? Mr. Galloway,
No questions.
Mr. Snipes.
It's a question for Mr. Gray. We did include this in our budget, correct, for
Yes,
this year?
that's correct.
Yeah.
No, that's all I have, thanks.
Okay, great.
Okay. Mr. Dents.
No questions.
Mr. Rocco.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to talk to Data 911. When I got this, it seemed like a lot of money for laptops, but after speaking with her, it's not just a standard laptop. That
It is not.
Right. So
That's why I looked at it
just to
myself.
clarify, yeah, it's a touch screen and the CPU is separate from the monitor, so.
Lighted keyboard.
Lighted keyboard, yeah.
When it says laptop, I looked at it, it is very misleading because
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
not, it's an
absolutely.
actual device. They're mounted, some are mounted in the trunk, some are mounted in the actual main housings
Right.
in the
Glove box, right?
glove box, and the screen sits in the front, keyboard's movable. That we've had some that were in rear end accidents and they still worked. I mean, that's how well this product is itself, so. But they are not typical laptops, no.
Yeah, that's all I had.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Comments or questions from the public? See no hands. Okay then. Is there a motion to? I guess we could purchase these both at the same time. Mr. Clark is now looking at the menu. Guess we can purchase these both at the same time, or do we have to do them separately?
They're from the same company, you can do them at the same time.
Okay. So, motion to approve the upgrades to the mobile laptops for the police department, $39,962.97 from Data 911. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Sergeant.
Thank you very much. Have a
Appreciate
wonderful
it.
night. Thank you.
Okay, consider, item 4 is consider purchase of canine equipment and supplies for the police department. I know that Lieutenant Ward is here. I'll let Mr. Gray talk a little bit about how this money came in, or maybe Lieutenant Ward will do it. But just, there's quite a lot of very specific references to equipment, specifically for the SWAT team that the township operates in, and so we're going to not go into a lot of details about what precise equipment we're purchasing. Would rather not be public with that kind of information. So just in case people are curious, but I guess we can sort of talk a little bit about sort of the various equipment and weapons or those kinds of things that are necessities for this. Mr. Gray, do you want to intro anything?
Yeah, the police department has secured a community grant. Through this grant, Lieutenant Henry Ward has requested the township purchase several items through the grant. There are several items that are being requested tonight. At this time, Lieutenant Ward is here to answer any questions the board may have.
Okay, Lieutenant, thank you very much for coming out.
You're welcome. I don't know what items you want to discuss. There's a whole host of items here, but I guess we'll start with the canine. Through the grant, we're looking at obtaining the services of Tier 1 SOF, which has taken over Baden Canine, where we get our dogs from. It is now a company that offers everything in one house. They can offer the tactical training, the canine training, drug training, SWAT training. The current price for the dog with the training is $24,534. It seems like a lot of money, but if you break it down to the traditional way that police departments train dogs now, you'd be looking at taking a police officer off the street for 28 weeks. And the reason that is you're going out and you're buying what's called a green dog, maybe from Europe, maybe from somewhere else. You're bringing that dog in and you're training the dog and the handler at the same time. What this process is, you're actually getting a dog that's already been trained for a year and a half. So this dog is a known quantity. They know he can pass all the tests. Basically, you're bringing a handler to him, and you're training the handler to the dog. And that process takes 6 weeks. So it cuts almost by a quarter of the time that would be losing the officer. Also, we'd be able to hit the ground running with actually a tried-purpose dog. It would be a SWAT dog, drug dog, and patrol dog, covering all 3 disciplines. If you did that the traditional way, you're talking maybe 36 weeks. So we're saving a lot of time. When you add that up with the salary of the officer, the overtime to cover him on the street while he's not there, and the traditional way, you're not guaranteed that the dog will pass. At any time during that testing phase or that training phase, the dog could wash out, and then you have to start right back to square one. I've seen dogs go up to 13 weeks in their training and then wash out, and then you've just wasted all the time. With this process, you're guaranteed that that won't happen. So we're estimating that we would save, if we go this way, about $10,000 for the dog with all that training. We have currently, well, we've had 3 dogs. Dante, my dog, was the first dog from Baden. We have Jesse, which is Sergeant Boschman's dog, and we have Tag, which is Officer Langen's dog. We also have in the area, there's about 11 dogs from Baden, all within Bristol Borough, Lower Makefield, Mannheim Township, where Chief Harkins went. So they're a known quantity. They've always been good to us. Anything that we've ever needed, they've always fulfilled. I think they're a very good vendor.
Okay. All right. And this grant that we got was something you obtained, I think, through your efforts, really through, I think it was through the Parks Casino. Is that correct? Or
It's through the Bucks County Redevelopment Authority, and it is money that comes from the casino in Ben Salem.
Yeah, that's for everything, but we already bought some. That's right. That's already. So it's this minus this is what we're spending. All right, thanks. Okay, sorry about that. All right, comments or questions from board members? Mr. Galloway?
None at this time.
Mr. Snipes?
No.
Mr. Dents?
None.
Mr. Rocco?
None.
Okay. And Mr. Mr. Gray's doing some math, real quick math here again. We have a value here of what we're spending, but some of this we've already spent. I think at our last meeting, I think we approved, or meeting before, SWAT, some of the training.
We approved the SWAT training for the
Right.
SWAT team,
All right.
and we're doing that on a monthly basis.
Okay.
Spending.
Right, so that's actually, the number we have, that's included, so we're just trying to figure out what we're spending, what's left that we're spending, basically. Comments or questions from the public? See no hands. Okay. Mr. Gray's still working here. All right, while we're doing that too, I thanked you before, but I know it was a lot of work that went into doing all the preparation for that grant. And then submitting it, and then obviously getting it. I'm sure, and I know you were pleased to get it, and I think everybody else was pleased to get it. So I'm going to thank you again for your work in doing that and getting this for us, so that this is money we can use, that our officers can use to help them do the best job they can, and keep obviously the township as safe as it can be. So.
Between the two of them, they should be able to get it.
Yeah.
Ask
Trying to find exactly how much we're going to be spending.
113,429.
Taking a guess?
That's my guess. Just subtract the number 12, right?
No, because we already did this. We approved this a couple weeks ago. So it's this.
$113,930, give or take 10 or 15,000.
113,930?
113,930.
Okay. And this is something we can approve all at once? We don't, are we doing individually, or we're doing all at once? We can.
You can approve $113,930, consistent with the memo prepared by Lieutenant Ward, dated February 16, 2012.
Okay, because the equipment that's on here, there are 11 different items that we're spending, and it's from different places, so it's not all from one place.
I have a question. The only thing we're not approving is the 103,350, right?
Right.
Well, my math says subtracted from the 216 is 113,429.
I think that's a challenge.
I'm just a lawyer.
All right. 113,429 is what I came up with.
He's a teacher.
I'm a social studies teacher.
The total amount of the award for the grant is $216,779, so we can't go over that.
Right.
Some of these items in here were expiring on our quote prices. One item in here, I know the item number one, the vendor has given us a break on that price, and he's going to make up the difference with ammunition, which we're able to do in the grant. It's okay to do that in the grant. So if there is some fluctuation in the numbers here, 216,779 is the cap.
Okay.
So we can just approve that amount.
Yeah. 113,429?
113,429.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dents. All right, so okay, so we're looking at a motion to approve the purchase of the items outlined in the February 16th, 2012 memo from Lieutenant Ward to Chief Wilcox, which was also sent to Mr. Gray, in the amount of $113,429.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion's made and seconded. And reminder, this is grant money, so
Yes.
it's not money that...
It's all money coming from the grant.
Right, not township money, actually.
Not township
so it's a
money.
great benefit. All right. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dent?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Good night.
Okay. All right, item number 5 is consider a quote for Levittown American Athletic Association. Mr. Gray?
Yes, the Levittown American Athletic Association requested repairs to the clubhouse for inclusion in the 2012 Falls Township budget. Funding has been included in the 2012 budget for these items. This past week, several township representatives met with Ralph Fung from Levittown American to review the clubhouse. The township received a quote from Dan Sharp Home Improvements in the amount of $5,800 for the repairs to the building. The board is asked to consider the proposal from Dan Sharp.
Okay. And just to kind of go over some of the changes, repairs to the roof, repairs to some of the walls, mortar, stucco, trim on the window, or work all around the window, actually, new flashing, gutters, downspouts, and hardware. So a lot of maintenance to the outside of the building. I know there's been some problems with leaks, and I think that clubhouse, for a while, or so this is a quote to do that work on the outside of the clubhouse to hopefully make it make it a little bit more watertight, I guess. Comments or questions from board members? Mr. Galloway?
Not at this time.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes, we are going to be approving the full amount of $9,050, correct?
We're looking
Or
just
we're just-
now just at the 5,800. And there was additional sort of some looking at possibly some electrical work, but I think there's another bid we're going to take a look at, or just...
Yeah, we're going to hold off at this time for the
Right.
electrical work.
Okay. No questions.
Mr. Dents?
No.
Mr. Rocco?
None.
All right, any public comment needed? No? Okay. All right, is there a motion then to award to Dan Sharp Home Improvements LLC the work on the Lowtown American baseball field clubhouse in the amount of $5,800?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded. Mrs. Bowen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dent?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Come on, you can have it though.
That's right. All right, thank you. Item 6 on our agenda is consider reconstruction of the Falls Township Community Park soccer field. This is a topic that we've been talking about for quite a while. Some of the fields have been really haven't gotten any maintenance or very little maintenance, I should say, in the 10 or 12 years the fields have been open. And they've been, some of them particularly have been worn down pretty well. Mr. Gray?
Yes, the township received a quote on February 16th from Jim Sullivan at T&M Associates regarding a proposal for engineering services at the Falls Township Community Park, the soccer field renovations. This project includes renovating and restoring 2 soccer fields at the community park, and they would be fields 3 and 5. Total cost of this proposal is $29,680. The board is asked to consider this proposal from T&M.
Okay. So I know Mr. Sullivan has been working with people from the Falls Soccer Club especially to look at this project for several months now. So comments or questions, I guess. Oh, Mr. Sullivan, do you want to just talk a little bit about some of the details here?
Sure. The proposal had 4 engineering elements for the proposal. The first is survey and base map preparation, where we do a field survey of the 2 soccer fields. We're looking to renovate. We prepare design and construction plans, then go out to bid, preparing bid documents and bid administration, and then task 4 is construction, observation, and administration services. We make sure the fields are constructed in accordance with the plans and specs that we prepare. The major tasks, I guess, in the construction of the soccer field is to strip the existing soil, determine its suitability for reuse, maybe add some nutrients and some other soil to it, or perhaps just import new topsoil. The fields do not drain properly, and the grass growth is very spotty on both fields.
Okay. And I know it's also, and these are 2 of the bigger fields. These aren't like the little kid
Right.
fields necessarily. These are the bigger fields that get a lot of play. And there are some concerns about people being injured because you have spots of grass and you have spots where there's nothing. And it's very easy to roll an ankle or tear up a knee, if you're running around full steam, as a lot of these people are. And we have, I know there used to be lacrosse leagues out there. I don't know if there still are or not. Soccer leagues, obviously, almost year-round. Rugby operates a lot, and so there's a lot of activity on these fields. All right, comments or questions, either directed toward Mr. Sullivan or I guess Mr. Gray regarding this. And then we're approving tonight just the engineering work. And I guess maybe I'll ask the first question here, Mr. Sullivan. When are we looking to actually begin the real heavy-duty work here if we're approving construction tonight? Or approving engineering tonight?
We're not sure if we can get this done in the time of year we want to do the work. We can certainly do the grading and stuff over the summertime, but we wouldn't want to try to plant the field until the fall.
Right.
I don't believe we'll have it ready for planting in the spring of this year.
Okay.
And I believe the soccer club is aware of that. They know it'll be ready for next year, not this year.
Okay. All right. Comments or questions for Mr. Sullivan or Mr. Gray? Mr. Galloway?
So we're looking at $29,680 tonight, and the total cost would be $250,000 projected?
That's our estimated construction cost, yes.
And that wouldn't include what we're approving tonight, right?
That does not include that number, no.
Right. And these fields are 10 or 12 years old?
Well, the park itself, they haven't been touched since the park was finished, and that's been, what, more like almost 13 years, I guess, 99 or so? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes, just to understand a little bit more about what would actually happen if the fields were to be reconstructed, both in terms of what physically happens to them and also in terms of the time, schedule, and when fields are out of commission. So start with the reconstruction, there was a note in here, you have to do a ground-based topographic survey. Is this to determine what, how level the field is, or what do we need to determine about the field?
Right. Neither field has a crown, so they don't drain properly. And that was one of the things they're emphasizing. Both fields have to have a crown.
Okay.
So we need to determine the elevations on each edge of the field, create the crown so that the fields will drain properly. And to do that, we need to do a field survey.
And these surveys were never done when the park was built? They don't exist? As far as
I'm
we
sure
know?
there's a survey of the park that was used for design. I don't think there's an as-built, but at this point, the field has probably changed enough that we have to do a real survey of what's there right now, today.
So the actual reconstruction to the field is doing that grading, let's call it, so that it drains properly, and then bringing in the topsoil that's actually going to grow the grass in a better condition than what we have now?
Yeah, we're probably going to strip the fields, strip them of the topsoil that's there and determine what quality that is. And most likely, we're going to import some new topsoil.
So is that kind of the two, for a layman, the two phases, the two things that have to be done are the stripping and the retopsoiling, and then also the grading so it drains?
Yes.
Those are the two essential?
The two essential things, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Right. And the total estimate for the renovation that was just mentioned at $250,000, that's over and above the engineering that might approve tonight, or
Yes.
that would? Yes. Okay. All right, thank you. Oh, no, the other question about the use or not use of the field when they're being done. What's the time frame that it would take to reconstruct it and then grow the grass?
Well, I would not think that these fields will be ready for play in the fall. So we do the project over the summer and fall, and it'll be prepared and ready for use in the spring.
In the spring?
Yeah,
Okay.
next year.
So they need to be out of commission for 4 months or 5 months?
They can probably be used in the springtime this year, but then once we start the project, they'll be out of commission until spring of next year.
So fall this year means when? November maybe, or?
No, fall this year would be September, October.
September. So by September, we'll take them out of commission probably.
They'll be out of commission when we start the work, hopefully sometime, maybe June, July. Depending on how long the contractor thinks it's going to take him, I will probably give him 90 to 120 days to do the project.
So throughout the winter, so 5 or 6 months, they won't be usable?
Correct.
You're saying. Okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Dens?
If we approve this tonight, how soon before actual construction started, so that we wouldn't be using the fields?
Well, we probably won't start construction until June or so. We got to do the survey, do the engineering, and then go out to bid.
And would we do both fields at the same time?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have.
Mr. Rocco?
How many bids do you anticipate getting for this, just based on history?
5 or 6.
Okay.
There'll be many more plan holders than that, and there'll be subcontractors who are interested in who the prime contractors are.
Right.
But I anticipate we'll get maybe 5 bids to 6.
That's all I had. Thank you.
And now typically the soccer club usually keeps 2 fields empty, every year, just because they're trying to get them to come back a little bit, give them a little bit of a break. So I guess we know which 2 fields will be kept fallow this year. Comments or questions from the public? No? Okay.
Another question, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman. Are all the sports teams, the athletic groups, aware that this is going to take place and how long the fields will be out of commission?
Well, I know I see one person sort of in the back, Mr. Murphy, who's the president of the Fall Soccer Club, is here, and he's been working a lot with Mr. Sullivan over the past several months with this, so he's obviously keenly aware of what needs to be done, and they're comfortable that they can work with. It's a very big league, it's a very popular league, and they're pretty confident they can work with the fields that are left. If it means obviously getting better fields, then they're willing to do that. So.
And they have been here several times expressing
Yeah.
concerns of injuries and such
Right.
down there, and the need to do this.
Yeah.
And the condition of the other fields is similar? Will we have to do those coming up?
There are some other fields that are going to need to be done as well. So, because none of them really have been touched. None of the fields have had any kind of serious maintenance on them since the park opened. So, they're going to need to be sort of rehabilitated like this one, like these 2 are.
And I can't remember whether we anticipated this in our budget for this year.
Yes, we did.
300,000 was budgeted.
Okay.
Do we know how many members there are? About how many members?
Mr. Murphy, I'm sorry, would you mind coming up to the front and just answering that question? Good.
We have about 450 to 500 members in the club.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all right. Okay. I think I opened for public comment. Nobody said anything, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we're approving just engineering tonight, $29,680. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Seconded?
Okay, motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dent?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay. All right, next item on our agenda is consider South Olds Boulevard Bridge Emergency Reconstruction Engineering Proposal from T&M Associates. Mr. Gray.
Yes, Township received a letter on February 16th from T&M Associates regarding a proposal for engineering services for the South Olds Boulevard culvert replacement. During a stream bank cleanup operation at the Culvert Bridge on South Olds Boulevard between Parkway Avenue and Southway Drive, the Public Works Department was operating a backhoe on the roadway and concrete sidewalk when the sidewalk and a portion of the roadway failed under the weight of a backhoe. Based on the inspection of this structure by T&M, it appears the arch pipes have deteriorated over time by rust, separated from the abutment walls, and have allowed stream flows to undermine the backfill around the pipe. This has been causing the need at this time for reconstruction. The engineering services included in the proposal are $58,184. The board is asked to consider this proposal from T&M.
Okay. So this is obviously something that's you can file under crumbling infrastructure. We had a bridge that was just recently replaced over New Falls Road. We'll turn to Mr. Sullivan just to give us basically the details about what has to happen. And if you wouldn't mind giving us an idea of timeline in terms of the engineering part, but also construction. And I'm assuming, obviously, that that roadway might have to be closed during that time. You can give us some information on that too, please.
Sure. First of all, this is not an emergency yet. I mean, we're calling it an emergency repair, but it's something that we're monitoring. We pushed most of the traffic onto one side of the bridge because the deteriorated side, we don't want any traffic running over that at this point. So, I mean, at this point, it's not an emergency. We haven't declared an emergency. So the plan is to design and have a manufacturer help us with the design of a single arch bridge. Right now, there are 3 pipe culverts underneath this bridge. So we'll have a single span bridge that can be basically dropped in place. We'll have it prefabricated and ordered through a company, and that should cut down the amount of time that we're actually going to have to close the road. Once we start the project, we will have to close the road. And I guess our plan would be at this point to try to keep that to a time when school is not in session. So we'll be looking at July and August for the actual work. So at this point, we'll do our engineering. Not a whole lot of surveying to do, and a little bit for the abutments on either end. Get all the engineering, get the bids in place so that we're ready to go on July 1st or toward the end of June.
Okay. All right. So comments or questions for Mr. Sullivan or Mr. Gray regarding this project? Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes. Is this something that could have been prevented if we had noticed about the problems and the undermining that was going on? And are there other bridges, other places we should be keeping an eye on?
Yes. Not as much yes to the first part, but the second part, yes, absolutely. We need to keep an eye on all of our bridges. These are corrugated metal pipes that are notoriously damaged by water flow. They're inexpensive to put in the first place. They wear out over time. All 3 of these pipes have deteriorated to a point where they have to be replaced. There's things you can do over the course of time to try to extend their life, but in the end, you always have to replace these.
And it was, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
It was the weight of the backhoe that gave us the indication.
The backhoe, they were just turning around. He went up onto the sidewalk, and the sidewalk collapsed underneath the backhoe. So that whole area was undermined.
And tell me again, this is going to be replaced by a cement culvert rather than the pipe?
A single span culvert, yes. So it's basically like a bridge.
And what's the projected lifespan of the single span culvert, would you think?
Should be, in the order of 50 years or so.
50 years, okay. Do we have a list of other similar culverts like this that we should be reviewing now?
I don't think we have a list at this point, but I think we're going to start one and go out and look at all the culverts that we have. I mean, some bridges are inspected every other year, and we keep an eye on those carefully. And we've included some repairs in the road programs with those. But there are other bridges that we own that I don't think we've inspected in quite some time.
Okay.
I'm sure Joe Arneo knows which ones there are.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Dents?
No questions or comments.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes, this is an unbudgeted item since it was soon to be an emergency. Do we have a contingency budget item? And if we do, how much is that?
This expense would be taken out of our host community fees fund.
Okay.
We would be able to absorb the cost out of that fund.
Okay, thank you.
I did have one other question. Is there any opportunity for grant funding for this kind of thing at all from county or state? Not that anybody's flush with money these days, but...
Not that I'm aware of, but it's something we can look at, and we will.
Do you have an idea of how old these culverts were? Just, are they back to original Farrell's Hills? Are they?
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
Okay.
So they're 50 years old?
60 years old,
50,
yeah.
60.
Okay. All right. Okay. Public comment? Is there any public comment needed? See no hands. All right, so we're looking again just at the engineering portion for this project. $58,184 for T&M for the South Olds Boulevard culvert replacement. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Callaway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Barkley?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay. All right, item number 8 is consider authorizing an advertisement for cell phone towers. Now, we're not building cell phone towers here in the township. What we're looking to do is make some changes to the zoning that gives us some control over how cell towers are brought into the township, how they're constructed, how the different co-locations, et cetera, happen. And the hope is that we can get a little bit more control over where that might happen, where that might occur. I'll turn to Ms. Gallagher from our legal team here to give us, I know she's worked on this a lot, to give us an idea of what exactly we're doing and the changes we're making.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's several changes that are proposed. A lot of them are dimensional changes. For example, and this is all under the Zoning Code, Chapter 209, Section 50.2, Telecommunications Facilities. Currently, under subsection 50.2C3, it indicates that directional or panel communications antennas shall not exceed 5 feet in height. We're changing that to 8 feet in height to match the upgraded technology. Some of the other changes were requiring that all new telecommunications facilities and any alteration to an existing facility, including co-location, shall be reviewed and approved by the township engineer. That's not currently required under our current zoning code. We're also requiring that all new telecommunications towers shall be considered land development, and they have to go through all the procedures under land development. We changed some of the parking requirements. Currently required under the code is 1 parking space is within the fenced-in area. We're now just requiring that there be 1 parking space within 50 feet of the tower. We're also requiring that all new towers, antennas, or co-locating on any existing tower or antenna go through the conditional use approval procedure in the township. That's generally most of the changes. There's some other minor changes that are in here. As far as setbacks, we're changing it to a minimum of 125% of the height of the tower. I think currently it's at 100 feet. And this protects if there's a taller tower, because the towers are allowed to go on top of buildings. So it protects from that.
Okay. All right, thank you. This is authorizing advertisement only. We're not adopting this ordinance tonight, but we're authorizing the fact that it be put out there so people can see it, they can read it, and at a later meeting, we will vote on whether or not to approve these changes to the zoning. So we can have some public comment tonight. I mean, obviously, we're just authorizing advertisement, and we'll have other comment at a future meeting. But just so far, just any comments or questions from board members? Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Snipes?
None.
Mr. Dents?
No.
Mr. Rocco?
No.
Okay, no, I don't have any. Is there any public comment needed? See one hand, is there a motion to open public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Binney?
Hi, Brian Binney, Chairman of the Planning Commission. These changes, a lot of these were spurred by what we've seen over the past few years of cell towers coming in front of us and you. And some things that we wanted to change we thought that some of these conditional use hearings are kind of not necessary for people that put antennas on existing cell towers or change antennas out of a tower. And we sat down with Lauren a few months back and we had some conversations, and a lot of it came from myself and Joe Jones and Tom Bennett. And to this point, I haven't seen a draft of our comments, and I was wondering if we were going to have an opportunity to review them before this was voted on or advertised. Once we advertise it, does it then have to be adopted in the form it's currently in if there's some changes?
No, I think the changes, as long as the changes are relatively minor, the ordinance can be adopted pretty much as is. If there are any serious changes, then certainly we could always re-advertise it. I mean, it's something we, it's a good idea to always update your codes. It's not something that we have to do by a certain date. So obviously, if there are changes that you bring up after you take a look at this, and you'd be welcome to take my copy if you want to take a look at it.
I don't know what your schedule was for advertising and everything, but we do have a planning commission meeting next week.
Okay.
If that could be placed on our agenda, we could obviously get the comments back pretty
sure.
quick.
That's fine with me. I don't have an issue with that. But okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to give you a copy in the morning. I'll get it over to you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? See no hands or motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Is there a motion then to authorize the advertisement of this? And again, we can revisit it at a later meeting.
So moved.
Seconded.
All right. Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item number 9 is consider authorizing advertisement for truck routes. Similar, the township, some people know, has limited the roads that trash vehicles, essentially garbage trucks, can travel on. There are restrictions on not necessarily the trucks that go around and pick up trash from our neighborhoods, but the larger trucks that carry waste in, from outside the township, to the landfills. There are restrictions on where exactly they can go, and that's designed obviously to keep those kinds of large vehicles out of neighborhoods and other areas where they, could cause all kinds of traffic jams. There are a couple, facilities, and the way the waste management sort of sites are changing and some other changes that are happening. There are a couple roads that might need to be added here, and that's kind of what we're looking to do. I'm not sure, Mr. Clark or Ms. Gallagher, anything to add to that?
No, I think essentially, Mr. Harvey, you've stated what we're doing. Most of these roads that we're going to be adding are sort of back in the industrial park. The purpose of this ordinance is to keep these larger trash trucks off of our residential streets. So this is more back in the industrial park. They're just not listed on the in the ordinance. So this is kind of cleanup in a way.
Okay. So, for example, one of them, the one addition would be from Tyburn Road east on Pennsylvania Avenue toward the U.S. Steel gates. So obviously not a residential area. Right now, those vehicles can go up Tyburn Road. Typically, they'd turn off on the New Ford Mill. This would allow them to kind of go up to the entrance of U.S. Steel if they need to do that. So that's an example of this. Again, something we're advertising, and I do know that there, is a road that's probably going to be added on to here, this particular draft that we're going to change a little bit. Comments or questions from board members? Mr. Galloway?
None.
Mr. Snipes?
No.
Mr. Dents?
None.
Mr. Rocco?
I have none.
Any public comment needed? See no hands. Okay, is there a motion to authorize advertisement?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second the motion.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next item, there are two leases, aren't there, Mr. Gray? Did you want to do them both now?
Sure.
I've forgotten about this one being on here. We have two leases. One is listed as, for T&M Associates, which does lease a considerable part of the upstairs. And I think there's another lease that Mr. Gray had been working on and just got in earlier, a few hours ago, from Mr. Elgart, the attorney who rents space here in the Township building. Mr. Gray?
Yes, the first one is T&M. The Township did secure a copy of the lease agreement for T&M Associates. This lease agreement is a one-year agreement commencing January 1st, 2012, excuse me, and ending December 31st, 2012. Rent for this office is based on $16.67 per foot. The board is requested to consider approval of this lease agreement with T&M.
All right, comments or questions for Mr. Gray? Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Snipes?
Has T&M caused any problems as a tenant?
No, they're not that bad. We can handle them.
You handle them? Has the township caused you any problems as the landlord? No. That's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Dents?
None.
Mr. Rocco?
None.
Any public comment needed? Okay. All right, is there a motion then to approve the lease with T&M in the amount of $16.67 per square foot?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
The second one is for Ron Elgart, Esquire. The township did secure a lease agreement with Mr. Elgart for his site as well. This lease agreement is a 3-year agreement commencing March 1st, 2012 and ending December 31st, 2014. The board is requested to consider approval of this lease agreement with Ron Elgart.
Okay. Is there a square footage on that, Mr. Gray?
Yes, 800 square feet.
I'm sorry, I meant the price. I apologize.
Oh, I'm sorry. The first year, it is 800. Well, I'll give you the square footage.
Okay.
$13.15 for 2012, $14.15 for 2013, and $15.15 for 2014.
Okay. So it's going up on an escalator.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So comments or questions from board members? Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Snipes?
No, none.
Mr. Dents?
No.
Mr. Rocco? No. Public comment needed? See no hands. Okay, is there a motion then to approve the 3-year lease with Ron Elgart Esquire, $13.15 the first year, $14.15 the second year, $15.15 the third year?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, public comments are next agenda item. We're going to take a short recess, please. Call our meeting back to order. Take a short recess. Appreciate everybody's patience. Public comment, item 11 on our agenda. First name we have on the list is Mr. Roland Kenny.
Ideas about eliminating conditional use hearings.
Roland Kenny, Falls Township. Last meeting, I mentioned 3 arches. And I was told that Mr. Sullivan was down there the Friday before last. I was down there, before I came here, I stopped there to see if anything was done. Still nothing done. You know, it's a couple of years. Now, I don't know about you, but I think in Falls Township, 3 arches should be the center that we should raise above. It's 300 years old this year, something that William Penn gave us. I think we should be proud and keep it in perfect shape. Next thing, I don't know, 2-3 years ago, whatever it was, we were supposed to put an addition on the senior center. It was approved. I think Mr. Sullivan was down there looking at it and everything, and I was against it. If you remember, well, you probably don't remember, but I remember what I remember. I was against it back then because I didn't think too many people went there. But for the last month, I've been going down there mostly every day. That place is crowded. They're overcrowded. They need that addition. I don't know what we have to do to get it done, but does anybody have any idea when we might see that thing done? I see you shaking your head, Bob. Let me know, brother.
The holdup is at the county.
County?
Because we're using grant money to build, for a good part of it. There are certain hoops they make us jump through, and essentially the county, the people that were supposed to be reviewing engineering study or environmental studies and data that Mr. Sullivan gave them in June, didn't bother to look at it until a couple weeks ago. And so they decided to not do their jobs, and that basically put us all delayed on the project. And we had to make some calls to, I know Commissioner Marseglia was notified, and she's quickly kind of jumped on them, and all of a sudden now they're starting to look at everything very quickly. And so our hope is that at the next commissioners meeting that will finally be approved, and we can then start getting through some of the other hoops they're making us jump through.
Where they have their meeting yet?
I think they know they move them around. I'm not sure when they're doing them. I know one of the meetings coming up might be at night. Some, usually they're in the middle of the morning, like 10 o'clock in the morning or something like that. But I don't know when their next meeting is.
I'm up at 5.
That's fine.
We had a contractor that probably would have been breaking ground by now, correct? Mr.
Yes,
Sullivan?
that is correct.
That we had to call up and say, well,
Yeah,
we have to wait again.
But it's in the works.
It's approved and
It's in the works.
Yep.
budgeted and ready to go.
Yeah.
All right.
The plans are done. The contractor's picked. Just waiting for the county to do their job.
And, well, I wasn't going to say a third thing, but Penn Manor will open in March, I think. Is that what I said last month?
Don't remember.
Yeah, I think they open in March, though. Yeah, I have a trip at the end of the month with them. We're going down to the city. All right, I thank you. Good night. God bless you.
Thank you. Mr. Mariani?
Aye. During our last meeting, this board approved a 5-year contract for our public workers, our public work employees. Now, so that no one misconstrues my comments, what I'm going to make tonight, and most of all the sentiments that will prompt these comments, I want to remind everybody that I was a member of Teamsters 929 years ago. I was a member of the 1776 union. I'm an active union member now, Transport Workers Union, and a dues-paying member. So I do appreciate the worker, and I understand what our needs are. I say "our" because I'm a worker also. The 3% yearly salary increase, which brought our employees up to $56,400, is completely in line with the Culpeper compensation surveys. So we're right in line, and the 3% is not as generous as some people may think. But the one thing I don't understand is the $500 bonus that each employee is going to receive for agreeing to health care concessions. Now, that's not a question I'm going to ask tonight. I don't expect an answer. But it's part of my comments. But right now, the township employees, as I understand it, don't contribute anything toward health care benefits. Now, Ms. Betsy Rukoff said that Falls union contract are going to expire in December of this year. And so with an eye toward the future, I think that Falls has to get ready to provide benefit packages for our employees that are predictable and most of all, affordable in future years. That kind of thinking has got to start, I believe, right now. It's one of the things I'm going to ask this board to do. Now, the Falls benefit package is presently $31,868 per employee. That's $3 million for 91 active and retired employees. It's exactly what it is, 2.9, Mr. Gray. According to the Kaiser Foundation Health Research and Education Trust, health coverage for most of the Americans is an average of $13,700. And each employee contributes about 29% of that, which is about $4,000. So I believe the one area where we're going to have to start thinking about reform for the future, long-term future, is health. Whether it's PPOs, HMOs, something, this I think is going to have to change. The other area I think needs reform is, of course, the pensions. And our goal should be to get all brand-new employees into a defined contribution plan, I don't care what department it is, and away from a defined benefit pension. And again, people living into their 80s, long range, you can't have people going out and drawing their pension when they're 50, 55, so on and so forth. Part of that reform may be you can't draw your pension until you're 62. So these are some of the things I think that we're going to have to look at. And you don't look at them later, you look at them right now. If you want to contrast the terms and the contracts that our employees here have, and I'm not criticizing our employees, I'm just throwing this out. We're going to have to make changes. Contrast that to the average Falls taxpayer who's going to pay for the benefits that we provide. And it's going to come to that. The median income family wage for a Falls resident, for a Falls household, is about $50,000. The average income for a meal is about $41,000, $30,000 for a female. These same people pay 20 to 30% of their health care. They get health care. And into a defined contribution plan, like a 401k, if it's available. So what I'm asking this board and what I'm advising this board is to start long-range future planning without the host fees. I understand we have host fees. I understand we're a wealthy township, but what you set into place today, when those host fees aren't there, and they may not be there, and they may leave sooner than we think they will, we're going to find ourselves in a bind. So I think one of the things that you will have to consider is to find alternative income to expand our tax base right now. And you got to start working on it now. Our tax base isn't going to be real estate. Find an alternative income to expand your tax base. I think without that, I don't believe that as Falls Township, my township, we're going to be able to afford to give our employees the kind of benefits that we want to give them and that they need. So thank you for listening to me. Please start long-range planning.
Okay, thank you. And just so you know, Mr. Moran, I appreciate your comments. I thought you stated them very well, as usual. But we did start, for roughly about a year ago, the board started looking very intently at some changes with regards to health care that we hope will save the township some money. And the unions have been very, very cooperative in that. So I'm very excited about the fact that, you know, we're moving forward in a partnership between the management and labor. So, but I'm very kind of optimistic about where we're going with that, looking toward that long-range
Well,
plan.
I spent a lot of time in management, but I was always a union member.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate both sides. I understand both sides.
Yep.
Thank you again.
Sure, thank you. Okay, Mr. Rother?
I'm Charles Rother, resident of Falls Township since '53. Now, my business is old business, so it doesn't include the 2 new supervisors, just the 3 old ones. The last meeting, when the one supervisor wasn't here, I listened to the meeting. I heard Mr. Harvey, the chairman, accept accolades from a guy that came from the school. I heard him give Mr. Zupka accolades for 12 years of service. I did not hear one word in defense of the 5th supervisor that was missing because of a health problem, couldn't be here, and I heard snickering, but I didn't hear one word of thank you, Mrs. Honorable Dorothy Vislowski. Not one word. Shame on the 3 of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, those are the names on the list. Does anybody else wish to speak? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Bill Irvin, resident of North Park. I've been working with Mr. Gray about issues with the creek in my backyard. Basically, the creek in our backyard is just a stagnant cesspool. There's absolutely no flow to the water at all. And in the summertime, it's not uncommon for I have 4 kids. You know, they go outside in the backyard. They're out in the back for 10 minutes, and they can come in with 15, 20 mosquito bites like that. As we all know, mosquitoes carry many sicknesses, and you know it's not right that it's strange that my kids are getting fevers in the summertime, and I think it's could be related to some kind of mosquito illness or whatever. You always hear in the news, don't leave trash can lids to collect rain, empty tires, anything like that to collect rain, but yet I have this 20-foot wide creek that spans all the way up and down the section that doesn't move. I've done a lot of research. Mosquitoes only travel usually 300 feet from where they're born or whatever, so they're basically coming from right there. A couple years ago, I called the township and I spoke to somebody. I don't remember who it was I talked to, but they said that they were basically stopped by the Department of Environmental Protection from running a machine up there to clean it, and now they just walk the creek. But walking the creek is insufficient because you can pick up somebody's thrown tires or bicycles or whatever in there, but there's so much sediment in the bottom that there's no flow. So last year I felt like I had nowhere to go, so I called the Board of Health. The Board of Health sent somebody out, and this was I think in the beginning of June, and the lady basically scooped water, and it was like a little shot glass size container, had 9 mosquito larvae in it. She was absolutely blown away that one scoop in that water produced 9 mosquito larvae like that. So what she did was she sprayed in the back of my house and dropped some tablets in that were supposed to last for like 45 days in stopping the mosquitoes from breeding. And it did help, but only short term. Okay, so like I said, I've been working with Mr. Gray, who's been helping me, and we've been going over some things. But I really want to find a long-term solution to this. I was back there, because I have a fence in the property. I went back there. Me and my neighbor were back there looking around, and there's a lot of the trees that are back there. The dirt has been eroded out from under the tree, and all the roots are exposed. And all along the property line there, we have power lines right along my property line. So now these trees, their foundation has been weakened because it's eroded, and beavers have been back there, which Mr. Gray was able to get a lot of the beavers, hired a consultant or whatever to get the beavers out of there. But my concern is that some of these trees could fall over, knock a power line down right in the back of my yard where I got a metal swing set back there, and that's a danger. And the spraying and throwing those tablets in there really is only a Band-Aid to the solution. Right. So, I think we need to have some kind of a long-term solution. And I reached out to Mr. Galloway, John Galloway, and I asked him, what could be done. And he said that the township would have to call him, But I was explaining, you know, when I was talking to Mr. Gray that, you know, there's permitting fees and everything like that. Well, Mr. Galloway had said that he would go to the state and do everything he could to get the permitting fees waived so that we could run machines back there to get this properly cleaned, because it is a health hazard. And, you know, at this point, I don't know, has anybody reached out to Mr. Galloway yet to take him up on that offer?
The township is working on trying to secure some sort of information on possible grants that are out there. We are trying to find out what we can do and see if we can move forward to do something for the location.
Okay, but Mr. Galloway is right there willing to help to try to go get the permits or waived, the permit fees waived. And also, I think that this is, I mean, I don't know which way this creek's supposed to flow, because there's absolutely no indication, because it doesn't move at all.
Right.
But this might be a cross township problem too. If if the creek goes into Bristol, and if there's a problem on their end, I mean, maybe we need to get the state representative involved to try to get the different townships involved to get the problem fixed. And I had spoke with the engineer on a side note, one of the township engineers. I'm not sure if it was you or if it was the other guy, and he had said that he thinks it would be worthwhile effort to do a survey, a complete survey of the creek, because nothing that hasn't been done in a while to find out exactly, so they walk it and find everything out. But he also noted too that there may be a possibility that that by redoing that survey with FEMA changing their regulations or whatever, we may be able to get out of the flood zone.
Right.
And right now, I mean, I can tell you, when I moved into Falls in 1999, I paid about $800 a year for flood insurance, and I had like full content coverage and everything. Right now, I pay $1,200. And that's just like the bare minimum with like the highest deductible, because I'd be paying over $2,500 to keep the same type of coverage I had in '99 now. And there's over 300 residents just in my area that, could potentially get out of that flood zone if, a survey was done and submitted to FEMA. And, I just don't, I don't want me to be the squeaky wheel and have somebody come back behind my house and spray and throw a couple tablets in, because we have friends a couple houses up the street and they had no relief at all. And I have friends in Elderbury, and the creek runs back down that way, and they had no relief just because these tablets were only put behind my house and the spraying was about done back there. But I'd like to just, I guess, get some kind of sense of urgency here, because we need to do something, I guess, now, because the spring's coming up in the fall, or I mean, and the summer, to maybe the solution this year is to spray and put them tablets all the way up and down the creek through the whole, through all of Falls Township, so that way everybody gets relief. But the long term, we need to do something about that creek to make it flow. I work at an environmental consulting firm, and we have water resource engineers and everything, and I've spoken to them, and they said it has to flow. You know what I mean? If it's not flowing, it's a problem. And we have environmental people, and I talked to them, and they said, there are certain fish out there that eat mosquito larvae, and maybe you want to, stock the creek. And I don't know, I had mentioned that to you. I don't know if that was followed up on to see, as a natural way.
Right. Yeah, no, I know the issue with that particular area, and it's really almost more of a drainage ditch. It's not really supposed to have water in it, I think, full time. That's part of the problem is, well, part of it, and again, this is not you, but part of it is that there are people that dump their yard waste back there. They cut their grass, they bag it, they throw everything else back there, and it's just an easy way to get rid of it. They throw all kinds of stuff, like you said, tires and things like that, and that obviously clogs everything up. But I do know that we have looked at this at different times in the past, and I do think, and I was talking to Mr. Gray, because he had mentioned that he had spoken to you about taking a look at that creek really intensely. And with permits, what Mr. Galloway's talked about with permits isn't necessarily money we'd have to pay, but it's permission, really. The state is very strict on what we can do, what anybody can do with areas like that. Even with the chemicals you're talking about, there's real restrictions on what we can do. And so what I think Mr. Gray is trying to find out, working with Mr. Sullivan, is what are we allowed to do? If there is some kind of bureaucratic roadblock in our way, then obviously we're going to reach out to Mr. Galloway at that point. And as you said, he'll, obviously he definitely wants to help us. But right now we have to find out what options do we have, what can we do, what's going to be, and we would definitely want to be something long term. And we're not going to do something here that's going to be just, let's throw this stuff in here and then people won't complain as much. We definitely want it to be a long-term thing. And the flood insurance problem is a problem that we've been working on with two different congressmen now, first with Congressman Murphy and now with Congressman Fitzpatrick, trying to get FEMA to realize that this is, these are not homes next to the Mississippi River. This is, this is largely a drainage ditch that's being classified as a waterway and a flooded water, and people are having to pay flood insurance, and people that have lived there for 40, 50 years and it's never flooded. So why are they paying, like you said, hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in flood insurance? So I appreciate you coming out, and it is something we're looking at, and we're definitely trying to do something soon rather than later, and long term and not short term.
I just want to know, do we have an action plan set in place for come the spring, what we're going to do to take care to combat the mosquitoes?
I don't know if Mr. Arneo typically outlines areas that he goes through and does work in. I'm not sure if he's looked at that yet.
I'm not sure of that location. And township-wide as well. I can check with him.
And certainly I know the county obviously sprays different areas, with mosquito spray, and we can certainly reach out to them and ask that, we be put on a list of that specific area, right along that whole drainage ditch. If we can get on their list of places to do. I don't know what evidence they require in order to do that, and I'm not sure what we can do as a township in terms of chemicals, but whatever we can do, we will do.
Yeah, well, I mean, I contacted, like I said, I contacted Board of Health, and they came out, but they said they were going to work with the township because they said it's not their responsibility.
Okay.
It's
All right.
township.
Okay.
It's township land, so they said that, you guys are responsible to
Yeah. Oh, in terms of
take care of it.
I'm sorry, I just had the thought about the trees. You brought the trees too. Make sure Mr. Arneo takes a look at the trees just to make sure that we're not, obviously this township property. We don't want them falling over and causing any kind of problems. So that's an immediate thing. The mosquitoes at least aren't around quite yet. It's not that warm yet, but let's make sure the trees get looked at, and we'll work with the Board of Health and find out what exactly we can do.
Yeah, I just want something done, or otherwise I'll be inviting all you guys over for a barbecue in the summer, and you can experience it for yourself.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else for public comment? Okay. All right. We have minutes on our agenda, but we don't have the minutes for this meeting or for our last meeting right now, so we're not going to do the minutes. Engineers report, item 13, is dated February 15th. This is the January engineering report. Mr. Sullivan, you've had a busy night. Anything on here we should...
Just a couple items, Mr. Chairman. The 2011 road program, all the storm sewer installation will be completed by the end of this week, at which time normally the contractor would start with curb, sidewalks, and road reconstruction. I know the winter's been great. We're still a little leery to get started full bore on that, so there may be a slight delay before that gets started. And the Babe Ruth baseball field, a lot of the heavy dirt work is done. They've actually begun shaping the field.
Okay. All right, yeah, I get a lot of questions about that field. So, okay.
Coming along.
And just so people know, the baseball field we're talking about is basically almost like a high school size baseball field, Babe Ruth baseball field.
Full-size Babe Ruth field,
Yeah,
yes.
so we're looking at 320 feet to the fence. Is that what we're looking at?
385 in center field and either 320 or, 320, 330 down the line.
I might have trouble putting one out in that one. 385, and it is going to be something that you would have to reserve through the Park and Rec Department. I think really what we're looking at is prioritizing. Obviously we have the 3 little leagues in Falls Township. Let's prioritize for them first. I know we have some adult softball leagues that are looking for space that are predominantly Falls Township residents. So we'll prioritize for them so they get chances to use it. And obviously, if anybody from outside after that, if it's still open and anybody else wants to take a look, use it. That'll be how we'll order it. But it is something that we're excited about doing and glad that we could do it. And it's a good space and good use of space out there. All right, comments or questions regarding the engineer's report? Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Snipes?
No.
Mr. Dents?
None.
Mr. Rocco?
I have none.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept the engineer's report for January 2012?
So moved.
Seconding.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay, bill list is in the amount dated February 21st, 2012, $2,447,902.77. Of that 2.4 million, approximately 1.4 million almost 1.5 million, is salaries and benefits. We also have quite a bit of money in here for the road program, for the baseball field that we just mentioned. For electricity, I think it's $43,000 across the township for street lights, et cetera. So we're paying more in electricity than we are in legal fees. $17,000 for gasoline. It's nice we're not paying a whole lot for salt this year. That's a nice thing. Knockwood. Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk.
2 meetings in a row.
Yeah. Comments or questions regarding the bill list? Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Snipes?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dents?
None.
Mr. Rocco?
I have none.
Okay. Any public comment needed? See no hands. Is there a motion to approve the bills February 21st, 2012, $2,447,902.77?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
We are going to switch. We actually have quite a few things for executive session tonight, so we're going to switch and do manager comment first. Mr. Gray?
My first item tonight, Township received a letter from Tom Gillette at Pennsbury School District today, February 21st, regarding the building permit for Eleanor Roosevelt Elementary School additions and renovation project. The district would appreciate it if the Township would review the various components of the total permit fee to see if any adjustments could be made. On July 13th of 2011, the school district did pay for and the Township issued a permit fee for Eleanor Roosevelt in the amount of $100,784. This did include a reduction on the building portion of the permit. This was a similar action that was taken for a prior school that was completed in 2007, the Oxford Valley School. The board is asked to consider this letter from Pennsbury School District.
Okay. And I see Mr. Sanderson here from the school board, as well as Mr. Palmer, 2 school board members. Mr. Sanderson, would you mind coming forward? I think one of the things, I guess, was with Oxford Valley School, there were 2 fees that we reduced, building and mechanical.
That's correct.
And with Eleanor Roosevelt, I think the school district asked for the building permit reduction, which we gave them, but they didn't ask for mechanical. I guess they're asking for mechanical now.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Mr. Sanderson, I know you've been you were kind of the first one to raise this issue with us several months ago about maybe there was some issue with the fees, and we got to the bottom and just sort of miscommunication. But I don't know if I know the Eleanor Roosevelt project is a pretty big one.
It's a massive project. It's perhaps one of the largest we've taken on, at least since I've been on the board. It dwarfs the other projects that we've had with the other elementary schools. It's a big school. If you look at the addition, it's huge. So it is a bigger project, and we realize that. And it came to our attention that there may be some room for reduction in the permits, and hence was our communications. And I do want to thank you, Mr. Harvey, Pete Cray, Mike Clark, for all the time that you invested in it, with communications with me, sitting down, explaining things, and listening to me, kind of saying, hey, we need to lower this a little bit. It's a win-win situation for the taxpayer. What the taxpayer doesn't, they're paying for this. So what is reduced in building fees is reduced as far as a tax, and what we need to, assess for school taxes.
Okay.
So any reduction would be certainly appreciated by both the school board and the taxpayer, I'm sure.
And what was it? 39,000? Was it? How much was it? The reduction?
The reduction between the mechanical that was initially charged for Eleanor Roosevelt, and after we did some calculations, there could be a $38,482 refund.
Okay, $38,000, a little over $38,000. Well, I wanted to, thank you, Mr. Sanderson, for working with township staff in a very professional manner. The district and the Township of Falls have always had a very good relationship, and it's because of people like you and Mr. Palmer and others that served before you who actually serve on the school board for the benefit of children, which is sort of a novel concept these days for some people. Comments or questions from board members?
Yeah, so I understand that we're not compelled to do this, but it'll be good practice, a good neighbor practice. It's in line with what we've done previously with Oxford Valley. So
Other schools, actually.
Other schools as well. All right, thank you.
Yes, I was going to ask that. This is consistent with what we've done, not for just Oxford Valley, but other schools as well?
I think when the big addition for the high school was done, I'm not sure if it, no, that's
sure
kind of right on when I came, yeah, I was one, not sure if I was on the board yet or not. I think it was on a planning commission when the major addition happened at the old Medill Bear, but yeah, it certainly was something we did at Oxford Valley, so.
And so in this case, it was simply the school board didn't ask for it, it was an oversight, or the school administration or whoever?
Yeah, just a miscommunication. They asked for a reduction in the building permit fee, which is what we gave them, when they were thinking about the building permit and the mechanical fee, which is what we had done in the past. And so it was just miscommunication in terms of what they were looking for.
Yeah, it was something that was perhaps an oversight when we looked at it in the facilities committee. It just seemed a little high. And I know it took a lot of work, a lot of cooperation, and certainly, again, I appreciate it.
What are the mechanics of this, Mr. Gray or Mr. Clark? What do we need to do? If we were to approve this, what would we need to do?
I think you would simply vote to reduce it by the amount that Mr. Gray has indicated, which is in addition, as Mr. Harvey pointed out already, to the amount that has previously been reduced. And if the money has already been paid, then it will just simply be refunded by the township to the school district.
I hope we could ask Mr. Sanderson to go back to the school board and let them know.
Yes, I certainly will. As Mr. Harvey mentioned, the township and the school district has shared a rich history of cooperation in the past. And certainly, we would like to continue that in any way we can. And this is just one more thing that we could see that we're doing together. This was resolved not by me coming to a public meeting screaming and yelling, was to sit down like reasonable people, discussing the issues, and seeking resolution. And I think we have it here.
Well, I'm glad. I'm in favor of this, and I do think Falls Board of Supervisors has had a great relationship with the school board, and I hope we can, and the school administration, and I hope we can preserve that. And if this is something that benefits taxpayers and the school board or the school district, I think it's a great thing. And I did attend a school board meeting the other evening, and I was able to see some of the less positive dynamics that go on. So whatever Falls Township can do to help things, we'd like to do that. I'd like to attend more of upcoming school board meetings, and hopefully school board and Falls Township Board of Supervisors can share some ideas back and forth, maybe especially around contract negotiations. Because we've had some success treating our employees with respect and give and take on both sides, and I hope the school board can do the same.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
No, I agree. Your efforts are appreciated, the way we took care of this. And it is unfortunate that certain school board members do have an agenda that has little to do with education. It's a shame, but this is good to do, that we can refund this money, so I guess we should do it.
I'm in favor of it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So it's, I'm sorry, Mr. Gray, the amount again,
$38,482.
$482. Okay, $38,482. All right, so is there a motion then to refund the $38,482 from the mechanical fee to the Pennsbury School District for the Eleanor Roosevelt project?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Callaway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Thank you again, Mr. Sanderson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks.
My next item, the township has a few escrow releases for consideration. The township received requests for release of payment for several older escrow accounts from asset management consultants. These accounts are 5 years or older. These escrows have been reviewed and all work has been completed. They are as follows. Nextel in the amount of $1,861.99. Another Nextel account for $1,499. $91.12. A third Nextel account for $1,910. And a fourth Nextel account for $1,922.82. Pizza Hut for $8,133.62. And KFC for $1,256.51. The board is asked to consider release of these escrows.
Okay, just before I ask Mr. Clark a question, just real quick, so these are, now that these are escrows, of course, these are projects that were done, these companies paid too much into their escrow fund, these projects are over in some cases for years now they've been finished, and so the money obviously it isn't ours to begin with necessarily, it was put there sort of ensuring that they do the work they're supposed to, so now we're just kind of refunding their money to them.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Do we have to, Mr. Clark, are we doing these individually, the different, or is it all going to the same account?
No, it's going to different people, but if you, instead of taking a motion on 6 different escrow releases, you can approve the escrow releases as outlined in Mr. Gray's memo of February 16, 2012.
All right, that sounds good. It's a good plan. Okay, is any public comment or any board comment needed?
No.
I don't imagine there's any public comment. Okay, is there a motion then to the effect as Mr. Clark outlined?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
The next item is pertaining to a Superior Towing. A complaint was filed with the township regarding an alleged violation of the towing ordinance that occurred on October 11th, 2011. Pursuant to the Township Code, a hearing was held on January 5th, 2012 regarding these allegations. Superior Motor Services did appear at the hearing and present evidence on its own behalf. Based on all the evidence presented at the hearing, it is recommended that a fine of $500 be imposed on Superior Motor Services due to the violation of the towing ordinance. In addition, it is recommended that a formal warning be issued that any further violations of the towing ordinance in any respect may result in the revocation of Superior's towing license. The board is asked to consider this recommendation.
Okay. This was I think the first time we've actually fined any tower under our ordinance, isn't it?
Yes.
All right, so comments or questions from board members, from Mr. Gray? Mr. Galloway?
Yeah, having read the account of what took place, we feel that the $500 is appropriate, not taking them off the tow list altogether, right off the bat.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Snipes?
And this is a second violation on their part, correct?
This is the second time they had a hearing.
A hearing,
township.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Right. So it's unfortunate, but I think it's appropriate.
Mr. Dents?
No, both my questions were answered.
Mr. Rocco?
No questions.
Any public comment needed? See no hands. All right, is there a motion then to approve the manager recommendation, which is dated February 21st, 2012, for a $500 fine on Superior Motor Services, as well as a letter of warning, formal letter of warning in that any further violations may result in the revocation of their license?
Mr. Chairman, can I make one last comment?
Sure.
I'm in favor of this, and the reason I am is not so much to, to penalize someone or, to come down. I think we need to do it, but really what it's about is being able to provide a towing service people can count on when you break down on the road or there's an accident. We need to know that people are going to come in and do it by the books and treat people by the books. So that's why I'm in favor of doing it.
I agree, but I want to add to what Mr. Snipes just said. They represent the township.
Right.
We don't tow ourselves. We have these people on our list to tow for us. So basically, they're representing us.
And to be fair to all the other tow operators out there.
Right. Correct. Yep. Agreed. Okay. So, was there a motion?
We make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Mr. Dents makes the motion.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Snipes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
My next item, the township received a letter from Robert Harmon from Historic Fallsington, dated January 27, 2012, requesting a financial contribution to support Historic Fallsington Day, which will be held on October 13th, 2012. the township did budget $6,000 for this event. The board is asked to consider this donation.
Okay. Yeah, Historic Fallsington Day is always a great event, and it's always attended by a lot of people from Falls and outside of Falls as well. We did budget, and we have budgeted for the past several years, $6,000 for this event. I know they're requesting $5,660. So I guess the board has a choice to make whether or not to go, to give them the extra, $340. I guess, I'm sure they could put it to good use. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'd say to go with the budget amount.
Yeah. 6,000?
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, they can get another porta potty or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion then to contribute $6,000 to Historic Fallsington for Historic Fallsington Day?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Sink?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
My final item, I just have a few announcements from the Park and Rec Department. Falls Township is seeking lifeguards to work at the Pinewood Pool for this coming summer. Anyone interested, please stop by the Falls Township Municipal Complex Monday through Friday between 8:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. to fill out an employment application. Any further questions can be directed to the Park and Rec Department at 215-949-9000, extension 220. And the Falls Township Skateboard Park, which is located at the Falls Township Community Park, will be open every day, 7 days a week, starting Thursday, March 1st. The skateboard park hours of operation is 10 a.m. to dusk. And that's all I have for tonight.
Okay. All right.
Hey, Mr. Gray, can we make that application available online as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. For the lifeguards.
For the lifeguards.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right. As we said before, we have quite a bit to talk about in executive session, and so we're going to retire to that. Not sure how long we'll be in there. So if you're not here when we get back, appreciate you coming out. Thank you. Meeting back to order about 10:25. Mr. Clark, can we have a summary of our executive session, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The board held an executive session where they discussed numerous matters of litigation, a matter of potential litigation, and a personnel matter.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we'll move to board comment. We'll begin with, let's see, let's start with Mr. Rocco.
No comment tonight, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Dents?
I have no comment either.
Sensing a pattern. Mr. Snipes?
Also, Mr. Chairman, excellent meeting and no comment.
Okay, Mr. Galloway?
No comment.
10:30.
Okay. Yeah, I want to just thank all the board members for a good meeting, members of the public for coming out, and also our staff, the administration, as well as the professionals we have here who always do a good job for us. Thank you very much for all your efforts and for everybody who works here at the township. Let's see, trying to think if there's nothing between now and our next meeting. No, I think of a holiday or something like that, but no, I don't think so. And I guess we'll have our St. Patty's Day parade coming up on March 10th. So that's always a good time. So just remind people about that. We'll remind you again at our next meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.